be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown.
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive, runs and right.
SportsCall.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401
Right through, he got it.
or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call. The opening segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. For signage, tees, web design, and more, call LMG today at 334-742-0197.
Hello, everyone, and good Wednesday afternoon. Andy Graham and Brett Pritchard here with you, bringing you the latest edition of Sports Call. We appreciate all of you joining us this afternoon. Got a big show planned for you. Stephen Davis, former Auburn running back, will join us at 4:30. You don't want to miss that. Brett, a lot going on today. We want people to be a part of the program. You can give us a call at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. You can also look us up on our Facebook page or just send us a tweet at SportsCallAU. As we, this Ray Rice situation just will not, it continues to go. It continues to take some interesting turns. Roger Goodell, it was inevitable that he was going to have to address this personally. He spoke with CBS News last night. We didn't really find out anything we didn't already know. He reiterated that they did not see the second video. That the first time they saw it was Monday, along with everybody else. Now, why the NFL wasn't able to get that video? They said they went through the police. There was a criminal investigation going on. We'll talk about that as we go forward. Some other things going on. We'll talk about the story that really hasn't got a lot of play. The Hawks co-owner, Bruce Levinson, stepping down. He's going to sell his interest because of an email that he sent 2 years ago that has some racial insensitivity to it. You can decide whether, oddly enough, people coming to his defense, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Jason Whitlock. Now, on the other hand, GM Danny Ferry of the Hawks, he makes some comments, and people want his job. The Hawks are going to stick with him. They have disciplined him, but several people are calling for his job. Auburn has an off week this week. They're trying to get better as they face a very tough opponent next Thursday week, September the 18th. They'll go to Manhattan, Kansas, and take on Kansas State. But we're going to open today like we did yesterday, talking about the Ray Rice situation, and that's going to be our question of the day. There seems to be a lot of talk about it. There seems to be a lot of people that say his career is over. They said that last night on the news during the interview with Roger Goodell. So our question of the day, should Ray Rice get a second chance at some time to play football?
Well, I mean, it depends on how harsh you want to make it. Are they trying to make an example out of somebody, or what are they trying to do here with Ray Rice is the key question. And one of the things that you got to look at is past players and what they've done and what they've been allowed to do as far as to come back, play in the league, or not to play in the league, or suspended for a certain amount of time. I honestly feel like what he did was absolutely horrendous, and it's a problem. Does that mean that he can't ever have a shot at ever playing football again? I think that might be a little bit extreme.
Well, that's a good point. And like you said, you have to look at what are we talking about here. And we saw the initial video, and Roger Goodell and the NFL executives looked at that video, which was appalling in itself, and said, well, that deserves a 2-game suspension. It's obviously domestic abuse, or a domestic abuse situation. The woman was knocked out cold. We could see that. But then this second video emerges, and a 2-game suspension goes from that to now you're suspended indefinitely. The Ravens cut you. So nothing changed. It's just that they saw the video. Now, just seeing what happened, that all in and of itself now says that Ray Rice can't play football ever again. We talked about it. We were talking about it before the show. You look at some of the things. Plaxico Burress, fires a gun in a nightclub. Now, he shoots himself. He didn't shoot anybody else. He goes to jail. He comes back. He gets a second chance to play. Michael Vick, he's in a dogfighting ring. That was just people went crazy over that. He paid the price. He came back. He got a second chance. But the big one is Dante Stallworth. And we talked about that earlier. Just before the show we were talking. If you don't remember, Dante Stallworth was convicted of manslaughter. He hit a pedestrian, and I think he was under the influence.
He was.
He did time, and he came back, and he played. A man lost his life. Now, like you said, what Ray Rice did was appalling. It was you cannot do it. There has to be some level of punishment associated with it. But she's alive and well. She married the guy. She's still in love with the guy. She supports the guy. To say that he has absolutely no chance of ever playing again, I'm like you. That to me, that seems a bit much.
It does seem a bit much. They've decided to move on, and a lot of times, and I know organizations and companies and businesses have their rules and regulations, but this was a personal incident, and this was involving those two people, and they've decided to move on. And I think the biggest issue is this all came out in February. Now we're sitting here in September after we see this, and did we have to really actually see this to make this into a big spectacle? I mean, what made it worse yesterday or the day before than it was back in February? The incident was the incident. We knew what happened. It's just like oversensitizing something. Once you do see it, it changes the game. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it all ends up, Andy.
We'd like to hear from you. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. Does Ray Rice, does he get a second chance? Do you think he should get a second chance at some point down the line? Obviously, right now he's suspended indefinitely. And Roger Goodell did not rule that out. He said, I'm not going to say that he won't ever play again. And we're a country that, we love giving people second chances. And I think, the reaction to this video has been, it kind of hits people, so to speak, in the gut. That they see this and that they react to it, and it's an emotional response. But after a while, depending on what happens, if he continues, and he and Janae work this thing out, they continue to stay married. They show that that they end up being a positive spin on domestic violence. Hey, you can come back from something like this. You can survive something like this and go on to succeed and maybe become a better person because of it. Like I said, he's 27 years old, a running back in the NFL. His window to come back may be a small one. You just don't see a lot of guys, especially at that position, have long, drawn-out careers. So, to say that he's done for good, I think it's a bit premature. Again, we'd like to hear from you. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free locally at 334-887-3401. As we mentioned, Auburn is now in an off week. They are preparing for Kansas State, a trip out to Manhattan, Kansas. I think they're treating this in the proper way. You've heard again and again Rhett Lashley, Gus Malzahn talk about what a great environment it is. The stadium, I think, only holds 53,000 people, but they say, it's probably the most hostile environment in the Big 12. What does that say? Compared to the SEC, that
even including Oklahoma.
Bob Stoops has always said that. I mean, I've even heard him say that they don't really have a big home field advantage because of the crowd. I think it's just a different world.
Yeah, I think you're right, and Manhattan's a small place, and there's a lot of smaller towns in the SEC, so maybe it does have that feel. Maybe it has that in that kind of SEC flavor to it. But 53,000 seat stadiums are not going to intimidate an SEC team. So let's just see how it all ends up when Auburn takes to the road. It's the first road trip for this team, Andy. So you got to treat it like business. We know anytime you go on the road, the cards are stacked against you. So you gotta cross every T and dot every I even better than you normally do when you're at home. Let's go to the phone lines. Jennifer in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, I just wanted to say I agree with you about the Ray Rice, that we shouldn't say he should never play again because Chris Brown is still making millions on his music.
I agree, Jennifer.
Yeah, he's a multiple offender, but people are still, letting him sing. So.
Yeah, and
that's all I have to say.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for your input, and I think you're exactly right. I mean, and I know he's not part of the NFL, and the NFL is their own business, and they can choose to, to levy the rules how they want to do it. But, he until this incident was known as a upstanding player in the NFL, and this is one incident that yes, he's already admitted he's embarrassed. I mean, and he's remorseful. They're on board with each other with this. They understand this, and you can say that she, that she's just wanting the paycheck and all, and maybe so, but they've made amends. The rest of the public needs to do the same.
I totally agree with you. And about the video, you could have imagined something way worse than that video. So I don't think the video should have changed. The result was she was knocked out. So, it's horrible, but
it is. It is. It doesn't take away.
Right. Okay. Well, thank y'all.
Jennifer, thank you so much. And like she said, what I was saying is it doesn't take away the act, Andy. And the act was bad, but on the flip side, are we overreacting a little bit here? I think the media gets a hold of things and they can make it far much worse than it really is. It's not taking the enormity away from what he did, but I mean, I think we've kind of driven this in the ground a little bit.
I think you're probably right, and I'm glad that we get a female caller to give her perspective, because that's something that as a man you really can't, you really don't understand, or you can't put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
As far as because a female has a different perspective about domestic violence than a man does. I'm sure. You just look at the world differently, and I'm glad that I'm interested. I think that's good. I'd like to hear more from female listeners out there, their opinion about it. Maybe there's some out there that don't think he deserves a second chance. So give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401. We had a female caller yesterday, Randy, that was wondering about Ben Tate. If she's out there listening, Ben's going to miss 2 weeks. It was announced today, so it could have been a whole lot worse with his injury, but he will be back with the Browns.
That's right.
Going to miss 2 weeks. So that situation seems like, it's all going to work out for Ben Tate and the Cleveland Browns. Moving on, getting back to Auburn and Kansas State, Bill Snyder actually recruited Nick Marshall quite hard out of Kansas, the junior college that he was attending there in Kansas. He knows him very well, knows exactly what he can do. Bill Snyder's a guy that's been around forever. I don't think there's anything he hasn't seen. He'll have a very good plan for the Wildcats to come into this game. You can expect them to play much better than they did against Iowa State. Auburn needs to really take advantage of this off week. They're going to practice today. They're going to practice Thursday and Friday, I believe. Take Saturday off and then come back Sunday. So, you can kind of get lost when you have an off week. You can kind of let your mind wander. This is the time for Auburn to focus and try to correct a lot of those mistakes that we saw. And
this is a game that a lot of people put an asterisk beside that they felt like would cause Auburn problems because it's a Thursday night game, because it's a team that usually is pretty good, year in and year out, and they're coached by a great coach, and you're on the road. The combination of all those ingredients, Andy, to kind of put an asterisk and plus to build it up. The media and ESPN and the SEC want to build that game up as a high profile game, and it will be on a Thursday night, the game that everybody will be watching. But on paper, and if Auburn goes and does what they should do and take care of business, it shouldn't be a close game.
Sports Call today brought to you by Always Money. Always Money offers title loans, cash advance loans, Western Union services, and they buy your gold. Visit one of their many convenient locations or visit them on the web at alwaysmoney.com. Always Money. Easy, convenient, friendly, and fast. We appreciate everyone, again, out there listening to us. Again, we're going to have Stephen Davis join us at 4:30 to talk a little bit about his career and about, what's going on in his life right now. We'll continue to talk about the Ray Rice situation. We'll talk a little maybe Auburn baseball when we come back.
Practice.
Oddly enough, they begin practice. So when we come back from this break, we'll probably talk a little Auburn baseball. More Sports Call on the way, presented by Always Money.
Hawaii and more on a land trip or cruise. Contact Luna Lisa Anderson at Cruise Planners today. Why do the planning when it can be done for you? Visit exclusivecruiseplanners.com or call 844-722-6342.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of Sports Call. Andy Graham and Brett Pritchard here with you for another hour and 40 minutes. Taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll-free, and locally at 334-887-3401. Sports Call brought to you by Auburn Urgent Care. Auburn Urgent Care offers convenient solutions for your health care and occupational medicine needs, including workman's compensation injury care and certified DOT medical examinations. With locations on South College and in Tigertown, visit them online at auburnurgentcare.com. Let's go back to the phone line.
Yeah, let's get Josh in Jackson's Gap. Josh, you with us?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. Man, I just wanted to put my little 2 cents on the Ray Rice situation. Let's not forget Ray Lewis, too. He was supposedly involved in a murder, and, he came back, did well, won another Super Bowl. Now he's commentating. So, as bad as it is, I think the NFL might be setting a precedent that might actually cause women not to report domestic violence, afraid of losing money, that lifestyle that they're used to, So it's really kind of a catch-22 thing that, as bad as it is, it could be hurting in the long run,
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, this is the lifestyle. This is their lifeblood. They make their money. Being an NFL football player, that you are accustomed to a certain amount of a certain kind of lifestyle when that happens, and being banned from the league, on a second offense, missing 6 games, that's millions of dollars. That's 6 paychecks that you're not going to receive. I guess it could work backwards on you, although I think you probably, at some point, I think livelihood or the preservation of life and health surely, would come ahead of money at some point, I would think.
Absolutely, and, you don't know what goes on in that home either. She could be one of those women that are totally dominated by him and, would never, report that because she wasn't going to report that, So you don't know, but that's one thing that I'm afraid of is that, one of the things that might prohibit women in the future to report, but anyway, that's my take on it, man.
Do you think he should get a second chance in the NFL?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, man, personally, my faith, there's consequences to everything that you do, but you're forgiven. You're forgiven, but there are consequences. Now, if he serves those consequences and totally turns over and you leave, then absolutely, I believe he needs a second chance.
Thank you for the call, Josh.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Josh. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401 to be part of Sports Call today, and any day that you want to call in and give us your opinion, give us, usually a prediction on Auburn, Kansas State. We'll get that going next week. So, just an interesting story that I think a lot of people feel like, once, 48 hours passes and people have a chance to reflect and look back on a situation that maybe that it might be a little bit harsh. It's not, and I don't want to, again, take away the situation. The situation is bad, and it was, something that you can't do as a man. You just can't do that. But, his wife was the first person that should have been, the one to step forward and forgive him and move forward, because it affected her personally and it affected their personal life. And she's done that. They've done that. They've come forward, made amends, and now you change things up on him the way you did. I think that's the issue people are having now, is how they changed the penalty, Andy.
And like you said, if she was willing to forgive him, then who are we not to?
That's exactly
if
right.
If she wants to give him a second chance, then who are we not to? You can assume that, well, maybe she's just a victim and all this, but maybe she's smarter than everybody's giving her credit for. Maybe she knows exactly what she's doing. Maybe this was the worst moment in Ray Rice's life. Maybe he'd never done it before.
And it was on film.
Maybe he'll never do it again. I don't know that. I mean, everybody just assumes that he did this, and he's a serial abuser, and that she is the poor victim in all this. That may be the case. It may not be. We don't know. We don't know any of the facts. This is their personal life. This is their personal business. He being a celebrity of sorts, an NFL football player, his life is opened up to some sort of to a spotlight to some degree, more so than anybody else. But if you shine a light on anybody's life in their darkest moments, it would be a very ugly picture, mine included. So we'd like to hear from you. 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free locally at 334-887-3401. Does Ray Rice deserve a second chance in the NFL? As promised, Auburn baseball began fall practice yesterday. They're looking to certainly improve in year 2 of the Sonny Galloway era. Last year was, a lot of hype, a lot of talk, a lot of predictions that did not come to fruition. Auburn finished the season 28-28, 10-20 in the league, dead last in the SEC West. Certainly looking to improve that this year, and much like Bruce Pearl, Sonny Galloway has really transformed this roster. You see now that he brings in there's 16 returning ball players, but you see he brings in 13 junior college transfers to this team, 7 high school players, and 2 transfers. There are as many newcomers to this team than there are veterans. It's going to be a new team this year. We'll have to wait and see how that works out.
A brand new team. Let's go back to the phone lines. Anthony in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just wanted to get in on a little of this Ray Rice talk. It's not necessarily an opinion of mine. I think it's just more of a theory that I've kind of come up with. I do disagree with, of course, the original penalty of 2 games. I think it should have been more. I do disagree that I don't like the fact that the NFL came and hammered him after the fact. But this is my theory. I think from the Ravens standpoint, they saw a window of opportunity because everyone knows if you watch any bit of NFL football, you probably have to watch a little more than just your team or vaguely. But if you watch Ray Rice, he was not the same back last year, and he lost a big step. And at 28 years old, when he was getting paid that amount of money, and they've got, I think his name's Pierce, Denard Pierce, a backup that's just as good, I think they saw a window of opportunity that, hey, we can really let this guy go, pay a small penalty, but we don't have to pay his cap hit for this year. We don't, because he had one more year on his contract. Now, I don't know if the Ravens actually communicated with the NFL, hey, we're going to release Ray Rice. What are you going to do? I have no clue if that has any bearing or any connection to it, but that's just my theory. What do you guys think about that?
Well, first off, Anthony, Ray Rice was probably one of the most popular players for the Baltimore Ravens. And, I can kind of see what you're saying, and it may have transpired exactly how you said it did. I don't think the Ravens were ready to cut ties with Ray Rice. They could have implemented a heavier suspension on him. They could have been, I'm sure there's somewhere in the contract where he committed an incident like this. They could have inflicted their own punishment, but they chose to go with 2 games and go and agree with what the NFL did. And, I just part of me didn't feel like it happened that way. I just feel like once this video came out, the second part of this video in the elevator, that the NFL and the Baltimore Ravens in conjunction felt like, oh man, now this is out there public. We got to do something extreme to show that we're going to have a hard stance. And he's a high-profile player, so what better way to do that than to just ban him from football? And I think that's what they did.
Yeah, I think, and you have the PR background, and you kind of know from a positive, negative standpoint. If people realize or know anything about jersey sales, and we don't realize that, like Manti Te'o, Michael Sam, people did not care what they were as people or what they went through in their situation. Those were some of the highest jersey sales when that was going on. Now, I don't know what Manti Te'o's is now. I know Michael Sam's was like in the top 10. But I think when you talk from a PR standpoint, when you start getting into domestic violence, especially to a woman, and you see video of it, I think from a PR standpoint, that was a nightmare for Baltimore Ravens and NFL.
It was a definite nightmare, Anthony, and I think they had to deal with it the way they had to deal with it. And the Dallas Cowboys may have a nightmare on their hands too. We ain't even talked about that yet. But what happens with a high-profile guy like Jerry Jones? I mean, we saw what happened to Donald Sterling. I mean, you can't force Jerry Jones. I mean, can you? I don't know. Can they force him to sell the Dallas Cowboys? I don't know where that's going. So appreciate the call, Anthony. We're up against the break, my man.
Thanks, guys. Y'all keep it up. Do a good job.
Thanks so much. War Eagle to you.
Yeah, we're going to be back in just a few minutes, and when we are, we'll be joined by Stephen Davis, former Auburn Tiger running back in the early 90s. Be sure to join us for that. More Sports Call on the way, presented by Auburn Urgent Care. we are efforting to take care of that, and hopefully we'll catch up with him a little later in the show. Right now, we'll just continue to talk a little bit about this Auburn baseball team. Again, the Tigers bring in 22 new players to this roster. A total turnaround after finishing, with so much hype, so much, so much thought. Or when Sonny Galloway came in, there was so much enthusiasm, and Auburn goes out and goes 10-20 in the league. Just total disappointment, but hope springs eternal. And, you hope maybe with a new roster, you got Jordan Ebert, who led the SEC in hitting last year at 353, back on this roster. And he has a great, you read some of the comments that he made. You hear about the football players, and they talk about their love for Auburn. But you don't hear a lot from the baseball players. They're not as visible. They're not as you don't hear as much from them. But when you listen to things that Jordan Ebert says, he cares about it.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, this is what you work your tail off, every day of the year to try to become the best that you can in your sport. Andy, I'm just going to pose the question to you. What were you most disappointed? I don't think we ever really just asked one another. We took phone calls about it. What were you more disappointed about in baseball season this year? What was it that, when you got a new coach and even a high-profile guy like Sonny Galloway, that that Auburn's baseball program it was going to need some time, but I think it was more about the dissension and the way things went down and the lack of improvement that we saw in some areas, and actually maybe the regression of some areas that got me. What about you?
I think you summed it up. You hit all the high points there. It was, it started out, with, like you said, dissension with some guys getting kicked off. There were rumors about unrest among parents. All these different, you heard a lot about. We got to see Sonny Galloway at his best and at his worst, I think. With some of the comments, we find out that he definitely says what's on his mind. He will give you a straight answer. It may not be the one you want, but I don't know. I was just kind of disappointed overall with the lack of progress from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I thought, like you said, I don't think at the end of the year we were near as good as we were to start the year. We didn't really seem to make any progress at all. That was very disappointing. You figured that with young stars like Keegan Thompson, that Auburn, had a lot going for them. They have a lot going for them this year. They have a lot of those guys coming back. Thompson coming back, Ebert coming back. But again, it's going to be a new roster. So watching LSU come to Auburn and being there to watch that series, you could see a marketable difference between the two teams athletically.
Yeah. And that's not all his fault, but another thing that we brought up back during baseball season, I will can clearly remember having this conversation with callers and you and Randy, and then a caller called in and said, well, maybe this is what Auburn's baseball program needed because we haven't been very good anyway. What we've been doing hasn't been working, and now you get a guy in here that's really blunt. That's had a very big history of winning, that kind of has a Nick Saban-esque aura about him with this baseball program. And, a caller called in and said, it's not his job to be friends with everybody and to kiss everybody's feet. And he's there to win baseball games. But I think, with that all kind of being coupled together, people started to get rubbed the wrong way with it. The way he handled some of the comments in the press and the way some of the players were acting and some of the things you heard behind the scenes. But, that particular caller on that day thought that, hey, look, maybe he's ruffling feathers because, he's changing things and he's going to make Auburn's baseball program better in the long run.
I think we were all hoping that.
But I don't think it's fair to hold him to the fire after one season.
No. Well, it was a unique situation.
It was,
and it was something that I don't think we'd all seen, and we certainly weren't expecting. But let's go back to the phone line.
James in Prattville, you're on SportsCall.
So the
Is there a mediator between Galloway and the parents this year? Is that what I've heard?
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. I mean, a guy that was hired to do that, which I think, kind of it caused the situation with the fans to explode a little bit more when you see that you got to hire some guy to come in and be a mediator between he and the parents.
Yeah, I just kind of see that as a recipe for disaster. I mean, how in the world are you going to say there's a mediator that if your parent has something to say, I mean, if they tell the mediator, then the mediator tells the coach, well, what's the coach going to say? I mean, coach is going to say, well, tell him to go stick it. So I'm not exactly sure how that's lined up and how well that's going to work.
I didn't even know parents of college kids got involved in the program and talked to the coach. But apparently, maybe that was a big issue.
Well, I've talked to several coaches before, and I can tell you that it don't happen very often. And you're coaching that kid, and you're not coaching their parents, and they let it not be known up front in the first meeting of the year, when they bring everybody together for the first time. A lot of these coaches say, "Look, I'm not coaching you, and I'm not communicating with you. I'm communicating with your son," and that's kind of how it goes from there.
Yeah, well, I think it might have been, I won't say the easy way out, but as opposed to firing them, I guess they all agreed, well, how about if we have a mediator? But, yeah, I think that's a little too many cooks in the kitchen if you throw somebody in there that I don't know exactly what their use is and what the long end is, because I don't know what kind of pressure he can put on the coach to change anything at all, unless he's basically there just to be a go-between, so Jacobs knows what's going on a little bit more quickly than what he might have the last season, because I've just heard some horror stories that just really make me shake my head when it talks about Galloway.
Yeah, I mean, those stories are out there, and those kind of precede the feelings of how everybody felt toward the end of the season. I think, James, that's one of the things that kind of made the fans feel the way they did after everything was said and done. Well, he was 500, and you got to give him a little bit of a chance. But I think people were more put out with the way he handled things and the way his attitude was, or the way his attitude appeared to be, and the way he handled things.
Yeah, well, I've never seen a college coach too much that would talk about a player on the radio or in the paper or however he wanted to put it, and then do that to, I guess, motivate the kid to play better than the next game. Because I know he said a few things early in the season, and he went back and said he went and looked at the kid's Twitter account and said that he was upset and fired up, and so he figured he'd get a better game out of him the next day. So that's kind of an odd way to motivate, which I know that's probably been done in the past, but I don't know how well it's going to go. But do we know if there's any folks that did not return this year that were on the team last year, as far as that could have returned?
Well, Dylan Nortman, he's gone. He signed. You had some other. I don't have the names or the list right in front of me, but there's a lot of guys that are not on this team this year that were there last year. That I think we only have 16 returners that were on that roster last year.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to look at the rosters to see how they reflect from last year to see how many folks have left just on their own as opposed to
we have 22 new players. If that tells you anything.
So James, realistically, what are we expecting out of Auburn baseball next year with 22 new players? Are we expecting a different chemistry, a different aura around the program? Is that what we're waiting on? Maybe just a different feel, or are we looking for improvement in the win column? I mean, obviously, we all want to win, but what are you personally wanting to see out of this baseball program that's going to make you feel confident that Sonny Galloway is the man?
Well, you'd like to see a little improvement. Y'all hit on that earlier, because I didn't go to as many ball games as I once did, but I certainly didn't see anybody at the end of the year that looked better than they did at the first of the year. And I mean, that's all the way up and down the lineup. And that's hard to believe that not a single person on the team got whatever the hitting coach was saying or whatever the pitching coach was saying, either way or the other. But they totally just didn't seem like they had caught on to anything you wanted to do. And then Galloway said he was trying to play small ball and figured out he couldn't do that, so he just quit playing small ball. Well, I can't believe you bail out of whatever you think your system is halfway throughout the year, and I don't know what he reverted back to per se, because it certainly wasn't big ball, because we didn't have the ball players for that. So you just like to see good effort, and you like to see some improvement. And I don't know. We've had a lot of dry years that we didn't see either one of those two. So I think it depends on if he gets a couple good arms, and the Holiday coach certainly has a good resume, but then again, so did Galloway when he got there. So
I know I'd like to see a lot less runners thrown out, and I'd like to see a lot less errors.
Yeah,
we tried to steal third twice in 2 games, and they both got thrown out. Galloway was mad that it got thrown out. Now, I don't know if that was the runner's fault for getting thrown out or for Galloway trying to do it 2 games in a row. So, I don't know if he might not have just had the athletes he was used to playing with. It's hard to say. And then again, the SEC might have had more athletes than what he thought they did, and he just might have been a little out of his league at the time.
James, we appreciate your call, okay?
Y'all have a good day.
Thanks so much. And 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Andy, right here at a break, Coach Holiday comes in. Question marks about that hire, too. I mean, everybody wanted to know, again, another good resume, but it's one of those things, hey, we got Sonny Galloway, but that's what everybody said when he was hired. Hey, we went out and got Coach Holiday, but, this is what we've heard, and this is –
is he past his
yeah, exactly.
Is he too old?
So
you can't argue with his pedigree. You can't argue with his resume.
Well, nobody could argue with Sonny Galloway's either.
That's true. But will it work out?
Sometimes
I think the word you mentioned best, chemistry.
Sometimes you find out just because you've been successful other places doesn't mean you automatically input that particular person into another program and they become successful there. There's different elements and different things that happen around certain programs that you have to buy into and in a culture to make that successful. And if you come in there and are very abrasive and are refusing to go against anything that you have, then sometimes you force yourself into unsuccessful situations.
Give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll free, or locally at 334-887-3401. Up against a break, more Sports Call on the way right after this. and Brett here with you for another hour and 10 minutes or so, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401. Our question of the day, does Ray Rice deserve a second chance in the NFL at some point? Probably not now, certainly not this year, but in the future. Certainly many more people that have done, in my estimation, worse things have gotten second chances.
I already had several people call in and weigh in on the topic, and they've all unanimously said yes, he deserves a second chance if he, changes. If he honestly changes. Well, look, honestly changes. That may be the first time in his life he's ever done that, and he did it out of rage, and he did it out of a moment of. I know people do bad things out of a moment of rage, and real good people. Obviously, he's a good person. And was one of the leading anti-bully promoters on the Baltimore Ravens, Andy. So I'm not too sure. I think saying maybe him changing his life is a little bit extreme. He may not have had that many issues. It just happens to be that his one incident was all over TV. It was recorded on a video, and now everybody in the world's seen it. So. Our callers, if we're doing a survey here, 100% agree that he deserves a second chance somewhere down the line.
Well, one person that disagreed with Roger Goodell, extending or upping the punishment from 2 games was Floyd Mayweather Jr. I don't know if you saw his comments, but a guy that has dealt with and did some time for domestic abuse, although he still claims he's innocent, but did plead guilty to that affair. He says it should, the NFL is overreacting. They should have left it at 2 games. It's kind of all blown out of proportion. Floyd just always seems to come off as an idiot.
Well, I was going to say, Ray Rice is probably going, I really appreciate it, Floyd. How many times have you done this and you're just using this as a platform? And at the same time, as if Rob Ford doesn't have enough problems in his life, the mayor in Canada, Mike Tyson comes out and says that, hey, everybody needs to back off, man. Could you handpick 2 worse guys to come out and
get out of my corner?
Come on now. So Mike Tyson in defense of Rob Ford, and here comes Floyd Mayweather in defense of Ray Rice, and I'm sure Ray's going, look, I got enough problems as it is. I don't need you to come out and say anything. So you're right. He ends up, look, he's a perfect example. And I don't know if it's bad or not, but I've kind of wanted somebody to step into the ring and just knock him out in about 20 seconds because, the level of arrogance that he walks around, he's a great athlete and a great fighter, but, the way he just throws money around and just has no regard for anything with any value and just a reckless personality, the way he is, I just have nothing for those kind of guys. Nothing at all. And then, to me, he's the last person that needs to open his mouth and say anything about a domestic violence. And nobody's listening to you at all. So just be quiet.
Yeah, and it boggles my mind that somebody does not have the tact or the sense enough to not invoke O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson as part of what he was saying. He said, look, you saw the pictures of that. You could see domestic violence, and I'm thinking a woman
domestic
and a man
violence
was murdered
and
lost their lives.
Yeah, we went a little bit further.
You're gonna say this. You're gonna use this as an example in your little scenario here of why there are no pictures of any women that you've battered. And that's a good
he has no concept of reality. When you're throwing suitcases full of money around and doing the things that he does, those are the guys that people pull against. Those are the villains in sports that people like. They want to see Floyd Mayweather get knocked out. They want to see, somebody that runs their mouth out on the football field get tattooed. Those are the people that you sit back and go, man, I'm waiting on his day to come. Because he has no regard for what a lot of people, people work hard out there in this country for a lot of things, and he's talented and blessed with a God-given talent, and he just tosses it around like it's a cheap piece of candy.
The Fox Sports Report is up next. Brett and I'll be back with you for hour number 2 of Sports Call right after this.
887-3401 locally. Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free. And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains, Sports Call. This segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Reinhardt Prattville, located on Cobb's Ford Road. 334-290-1992. Visit us online at ReinhardtPrattville.com. Reinhardt Prattville. We sell to sell again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Call on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Finally, a little dry day. We've avoided the rain a little bit.
Breeze outside.
It's almost like you can feel, I think, 80s, low 80s on the way.
Don't say anything. It'll run away again.
Well, at least Auburn's off this weekend because I think it's rain again.
Of course, they'll be off when it's a little. Yeah, it is raining, but you would think they're finally off on a day like today that's beautiful. But it is another 60% chance of rain. Maybe with the off week we'll kind of trick the weather and it'll be confused.
Maybe so. Andy Graham and Brett Pritchard here with you for hour number 2 of Sports Call. Be sure to give us a call at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401. Our question of the day: does Ray Rice deserve a second chance in the NFL at some point? Not this year, but perhaps next year. We've had a lot of calls. People seem to be very forgiving. They seem to be for that. Again, we talked about in the first hour, there are several NFL players in the past that have done things, in my estimation, worse than what Ray Rice did and have gotten a second chance and have gone on and have productive NFL careers. So, I don't think that
why didn't they think that out, Andy? I don't mean to cut you off, but why didn't Goodell and them sit down and process this for a day or two before jumping the gun and saying, all right, you're banned from football for life and you're out of here? I mean, you've already you've already gone through. First of all, you didn't know your own rule. It's supposed to be a 6-game suspension, not a 2-game suspension. So you messed that up to begin with. And then now you come back and ban him from football after his wife said look, don't pursue this. She went to Ozzie Newsome several times right after it happened in March and said, do not pursue this. I'm good with this. I was just as
we're working it out.
We're working it out. So what are they doing here? And now I'm going to tell you something. We saw some breaking news that a law enforcement official said he sent the tape to an NFL executive.
In April.
Now, if he did that, now how can he prove he did? We don't know that. But if he did and it's proven that they did, and Goodell may need to go. I don't know.
People will lose their jobs if that's true. And if it can't, and like you said, how do you prove it?
You can't prove it unless you send a tracker, on it. You had a tracking number on it, and you saw that it was hand delivered or certified mail, where somebody had to sign for it. Now, if you sent it certified mail and they had to sign for it, you got proof. If you just stuck it in the mail and said, "Hey, I'm sending this to you," sorry, buddy, hey, I never got it.
Is there an envelope somewhere in the NFL offices? In the mail room that this got knocked behind the desk?
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's always question about it, and it certainly didn't help matters when you had people at the casino saying nobody from the NFL ever called and asked for it. Like as if to say, well, all you had to do was call and ask for it. We'd have given it to you easy, But the NFL said, well, we were going through the proper channels. There was a criminal investigation underway. We were following up with the police. First, they said it was the New Jersey State Police. The State Police said, no, we don't handle those kind of things. It's the New Jersey Police Department that handles those things at the casino. So it's just a total miscommunication. And what we have here is failure to communicate.
Exactly.
And so many things in life are like that. But I think Roger Goodell makes about $50 million a year.
That is unbelievable.
I think that's right. It's something close to that. But if you make that kind of money, you're in that kind of organization, the NFL and the big business that it does, you can't have slip-ups like this. You can't have communication problems like this. So, like you said, again, this story continues to take turns and twists, and before it's all said and done, Roger Goodell may actually lose his job.
Does he deserve to?
That's a good question of the day. Does Roger Goodell deserve to lose his job?
Well, as of right now, no. Because, I guess he's made to me, the biggest mistake is not sitting back and letting at least 48 hours pass. Why did he have to rush to a judgment? Why did he have to rush out and make a statement and a decision on Ray Rice's future right there? Why didn't they come together and discuss it? You know, knee-jerk reactions are never good for anybody, either positively or negatively. Something in the end, you either went way too far over here or went way too far over there. It would have been very simple to pull everything in and go, look, all right, in past situations, what have we done? What has happened? What's the worst situation we've had to experience with a player? All right, and here it is. I would say Dante Stallworth. All right, what did we do in Dante Stallworth's situation? We reinstated him in 2010. The Browns immediately cut him, but he was picked up. Okay, then. All right, he killed somebody. Now, it was involuntary manslaughter. Is what they called it, because the guy walked out in the road, but he was intoxicated, so he was at fault. So if you're not going to ban somebody like that for life from the NFL, then a guy that swung and hit his wife in the elevator and made a terrible mistake doing it, but they have since come together and made amends publicly, and he said that it's the worst moment of his life, and you're going to ban him? That's why some people have a problem with Pete Rose. You know, the Pete Rose situation in baseball. A lot of people feel like, okay, you have made your point. You have made him sit back and he did a terrible thing, but are you diminishing all the stuff he did as a player and not going to let him in the Hall of Fame? Sometimes some people are the poster child for and made an example, and you're not going to change your mind. This may be the case here with Ray Rice.
Well, yeah, this incident happened back in February. And they took all this. They let the criminal process unfold. They waited. They saw this video, the first video, and they watched that. They said, you know, there's another video we think out there. We haven't seen it yet, but we understand what happened. He came out. Goodell did and said that there was some ambiguity about what happened in the elevator. Ray Rice may have misled them about what actually happened. But other reporters knew exactly. Chris Mortensen said he knew exactly what happened and told everybody what happened, 4 months ago. But so they take all this time, then they make the 2-game suspension. So you take all that time
to make the two-game
suspension. Then the tape comes out on Monday, and Monday night they say you're done.
You're out. You can't play anymore. That, again, I think that shows you the inconsistency. It's almost NCAA and Penn State-ish. How long does it normally take the NCAA to come down on a ruling? As soon as they get the report, exactly, years is more like it. And then, all right, Penn State, boy, they had you pretty much death penalty. I mean, the notch right under death penalty is what we're going to give you. We already pretty much made our mind up on that. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Our phone lines are open for you. Question of the day is, does Ray Rice deserve to ever play football again? Was this severe enough to warrant him being out of a career and not playing? The CFL went in and backed the NFL up immediately, said, look, you can't come up here either, buddy. Just because you're not in the NFL, you're not coming up here to the CFL. I mean, they've made an example of him. Now, will they retract and go, maybe that was a little bit too harsh? Sometimes when you do that, it's hard to retract, makes you look toothless.
Rob Ford said we can't have his kind
of behavior. We cannot have that kind of behavior in Canada.
What? 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Gene Chizik came out and said that he has the 3 keys to stopping.
What a segue.
He says the 3 keys to stopping Auburn's offense. That is focus on the tailbacks. That is defending the quarterback with just one man is impossible. And avoid eye discipline problems.
There are some people you ask advice for and some people that you surely don't. He would definitely fall in the category of don't ask advice. Can you go back and check the last few times he played the Big Five in the SEC and see what the results are? I mean, it's about like Floyd Mayweather coming out in defense of Ray Rice or Mike Tyson coming out in defense of Rob Ford or Gene Chizik coming out saying he's got the keys to stopping Auburn's offense. How comical is this?
I'm laughing.
I mean, exactly. I mean, everybody needed a good laugh today. I hope we didn't make somebody run off the road laughing from tears filling up in their eyes. But some people just need to be quiet.
They pay Gene to say these things.
They
now.
do, but they do. They pay him to talk. But sometimes you need to sit back and look. It's almost like Derek Mason saying, "Hey, man, we got more talent up here than we did at Stanford." Well, then what are you doing then? Because you are terrible at Vanderbilt right now.
Well, basically what he said is it's the equivalent of saying, well, you got to tackle them when they got the ball. You got to line up and you got to beat your man in front of you. And you got to not get beat, not get burned when they throw deep. I mean, a lot easier said than done. But
if he were such the great, awesome coach, then he'd still be coaching and not behind an analyst booth at the SEC Network.
1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free locally at 334-887-3401. Give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind today. Give us an answer to our question of the day. Does Ray Rice deserve a second chance? Maybe our question B, should Roger Goodell keep his job?
And question C, and I think we'll get more response out of this one, do you really care what Gene Chizik has to say about Auburn's offense or defense or anything in between? I'd like to hear you out there. Please call in. Do you really care that Gene Chizik said he's got the 3 keys to stopping Auburn's offense? I mean, give us a call. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401.
Up against a break. More Sports Call on the way, presented by Always Money. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of Sports Call. Andy Graham and Brett Pritchard here with you for another 40 minutes, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401. Had a lot of great calls today responding to our question of the day. Should Ray Rice get a second chance in the NFL at some point? Breaking news on ESPN a little while ago, maybe an official at the police department says that a tape was sent to an NFL executive. Roger Goodell has already come out and said he did not see the tape. If it's proven that that tape was available and that he did see it, certainly his job will be over. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But a story that I didn't – this will tell you exactly what's going on at SMU right now. I didn't even realize June Jones had resigned. Did you realize?
I did not.
Apparently he resigned.
No, I did. Okay. I saw that last week.
Apparently he resigned Monday.
Because Eric Dickerson came out in a very scathing.
Eric Dickerson said they ought to just kill the program. If they're not going to do anything better about it, he said, I think the main thing is getting the help there. I think June has been frustrated the last couple of years with not getting the help that needed from, in his words, upper management in the university. But SMU, a proud program, of course. If you're too young to remember, if you don't, watch Pony Express, one of those ESPN 30 for 30s. It's all about how really dominant SMU was back in the early 80s. Of course, then they in 1986 were given the death penalty, and it was a terrible situation. That program really was erased from existence, erased from the map, really. But Eric Dickerson comes out. He says he's talked to some teammates. They feel like that they need to either figure out some way to move this football program forward. They really got blown out by North Texas just this past week. It seemed like when June Jones first came in from Hawaii, they went to a bowl game, and everybody was really excited. But now, only a few years later, it's the program is basically, Eric said, like he said, non-existent.
Well, ever since that, and I think this is why you've never seen the death penalty again in college football. SMU never recovered. Now, I know, when they had the two great running backs, Craig James and Eric Dickerson there, it was a different story, but they never were any better after that. So, after that death penalty, they never did recover. I think that's why the NCAA pretty much is an unwritten rule. They've still got it in the handbook. They've never given a program a death penalty because you just don't recover.
No, you don't. And that's one of the things that Dickerson mentioned. He said, look, the death penalty happened 30 years ago. We're still talking about it. He said, take a look at TCU just right down the road. They're now in a Power 5 conference. They're succeeding. They've played in BCS bowls. He said, why can't we do that? What's the difference? Texas Christian University, Southern Methodist University, you look, and he has a good point. What's the difference? Why can't SMU do anything positive, it seems like, in the last 30 years?
It's a sad situation, and there's some SEC schools that have been close. Florida back in the 80s, they knocked on death's door there for a minute, and some people have thought in the past that Auburn and Alabama both should have had shots at getting that from the NCAA. Of course, it's a catch-22 with the NCAA because Notre Dame's and Auburn's and Alabama's and USC's. Why would you even ever think about doing that to those programs? How much money they make for the NCAA? So the governing body that issues those penalties aren't going to ever do that to one of their bigger institutions, bigger money-making institutions like now Florida State or Notre Dame or an Ohio State or Southern Cal. So it's interesting talk. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401 to be part of the program. We'd love to hear from you. Andy, my phone died just then, so that's our way of communicating, getting our calls in right here from our producer. So if you are holding out there, I do apologize. So my phone will be up here in just a second so we can take your calls. But in the meantime, our producer can tell us in our headset that we do have a call. So give us a call, 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401.
Another story that I found pretty intriguing. The Citadel, Florida State played the Citadel this weekend, and the Citadel employs cut blocking. just like Georgia Tech. They do a whole lot of cut blocking. Now, this is legal, and it's just
it's not chop blocking.
It's not chop blocking. It's cut blocking, and it's very legal. And why is this important? Well, a guy from the Citadel, Victor Hill, came out and on
Michael
social
from Auburn to be the first caller.
Okay.
From Auburn.
And social media, and said that they were doing this on purpose to go after the knees of Florida State. Now, why is that relevant? Florida State lost 3 defensive linemen in Saturday's game. I don't know how long, but a very relevant story. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's go to the phone line.
Yeah, Michael in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, I was going to comment on just some of the things you were talking about. The Chiswick thing, I know how you hate Chiswick or just have a dislike for him, but he reminds me a lot of Terry Bowden. I mean, he came in after, a great run there. I just think, he was in at the right time, to get that 2010. But I think that was kind of built on the foothills of Tuberville, and then, a little bit of Gus Malzahn thrown in there as well. As far as the Ray Rice situation, I just think it was a way for Roger Goodell to kind of cover up his own mistakes. It should have been that from the get-go, in my opinion. Not necessarily suspended indefinitely, but for the year. And I think that was just a way, with all the grief he was getting, to kind of cut ties. Just my own personal thoughts. But I had another thought that I wanted to bring to y'all's attention, and I was hearing a lot about with the Penn State situation, and get y'all's take on that. Franklin, left Vanderbilt, and we're not really hearing a lot about the issues and the rape allegations that happened there. And with everything that happened at Penn State, and for them to hire that coach with those investigations, do you think that anything could come out, and then Penn State, has hired this guy, and maybe they didn't know, but there's some things out there. What do y'all's take on that?
I think there's always a possibility that something's going to come out, and you talk about the absolute worst possible thing that could happen for Penn State. If something were to come out that something under the table did happen, he did know about something, he did cover something up. Just for Penn State's sake, I hope that doesn't happen. Well, I hope just, for James Franklin that doesn't happen. I hope that didn't happen. But it's always out there, and it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
But, that's just a big story that no one – it just kind of swept under the rug. No one's really talking about. But, there's allegations, like I said, and they're just allegations and, nothing. But he covered up a rape situation, and then you look at how devastating and how – bad of a situation that Penn State was and everything that went on there. And then, this comes out that, and I haven't heard any more about it. I don't know if it's just a private type. They paid some people off and it's hush-hush now, or I don't know.
Well, if it is true and it comes to light, I can't even tell you the enormity of how that would be for him and Penn State. Michael, we appreciate your call, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Let's go back to the phone lines. Brandon, are you with us in Tallahassee?
I'm here, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing good, Brandon. How are you?
I'm good. I had to call when y'all were talking about Gene Chiswick having the keys to stopping Gus Malzahn's offense. I thought he did a pretty good job of it in 2011.
He was the best defender against Gus Malzahn's offense, no doubt about it, as the head coach. See, I told you, Andy, we'd get a lot of response. The phone lit up when I said, what is your take about Gene Chiswick? Hey, I'm telling you, Brandon, that may be one of the best ones I've heard.
Right. And also on the Ray Rice thing, at the top of the hour break, they said on the little news update that the law enforcement official has a voicemail of an NFL official confirming that they did receive the video.
That's
and
damning
and the worm
right
turns yet again.
Yeah, that's it. And, clean out the front office of the NFL if that's the case. Brandon, we appreciate your call, buddy.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Thanks so much. One more. Russell in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
The problem with Goodell is it's like a dictatorship, and he pretty much runs the show. And the reason he gets on my nerves is because it's like a double standard. all year this Irsay thing's been going on, and they decided to not do anything until the courts handled it and it went through it, and then make a decision. Well, why come down on the players so hard when you got, the owners should be grouped in the same barrel as the players. They shouldn't treat them any different than the players. And then to suspend him indefinitely, I mean, he just came out and said these domestic violence suits, if it's a first-time offense, it's going to be a 6-game suspension. Second time, you're banned for life. Okay. Well, is this Ray Rice's second time or first time?
First, as far as we know.
This is first time.
So it should be a 6-game suspension, just like it would be anybody else.
Well, that's what I said, earlier, and I agree with you 100%. He didn't even go by his own rule book, and then now it's like Andy said, took months to come up with a 2-game suspension, and then the tape comes out by nightfall. He's banned from the league. Take a breath. Step back.
It makes no sense. And then just to end on the Chiswick thing, what was Chiswick's record without Gus Malzahn as a coach on his staff? You guys add it up real quick.
16
and 27 or something.
That sounds
about. As far as I'm concerned, anything that Chiswick did here at Auburn, you can just go ahead and put that in Gus's category.
I think you're
right. He
right.
didn't do anything for his defense. He had Nick Fairley. That was about all he had on defense.
And look, I'm not sure Gus Malzahn would admit it, but if deep down he left Auburn, took a pay cut to get out of here before he got grouped in with that coaching staff and lost his integrity, because he went to Arkansas State, showed what he could do, and then was hired back at Auburn, and it all worked out. If he'd just hung around one more year, Gene Chizik was slowing his offense down because his defense was so bad.
I hear you. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401.
Obviously, he was talking to you when he said, I know you hate Gene Chizik.
I mean, he knows me well, doesn't he? I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, really. We're up against the break, but we'll be back with more Sports Call right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Brett here with you for another 30 minutes, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll-free, or locally at 334-887-3401. Be sure to give us a call. We've had a lot of great calls today. Will Ray Rice deserve a second chance in the NFL at some point? Does it appear that Roger Goodell is going to lose his job? Or you can call in and talk, give us your thoughts on Gene Chizik, and you and Brett can commiserate on his failures as a coach. As we look here, and it seems the news is breaking, we had a caller call in and tell us there is a voicemail that apparently proves that the NFL did receive this second videotape.
And that's what OTL is talking about right now, is that if that tape made its way into the front office of the NFL and you didn't do anything about it, it's sayonara. I mean, because if you're going to come out and levy these kind of punishments, and you've been sitting on this for months, and now all of a sudden because it comes out you make some kind of knee-jerk reaction, you didn't handle your business. You didn't take care of business. And, what did Roger Goodell have to gain from sitting on that tape? Why do you sit there on those rules and not abide by them? Maybe that should have been a red flag to begin with the two-game suspension. Where did that come from? Did somebody go in there and pay him off? Did they go in there and negotiate it down from 6 to 2? Everybody was wondering. First offense is 6 games. Why did he only get 2?
Well, that rule didn't go into place until after the video.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, right now we're looking at it. I mean, Roger Goodell has gone on national television and said, I did not see the tape. It's hard to believe that he saw the tape.
And he did it.
I mean, is he Lance Armstrong now? I mean, the fact that Lance Armstrong just completely lied to everybody for years, it's not hard to believe that somebody would do that.
Well, the old rule that, Lance Armstrong followed was, I'm just going to deny. And eventually he broke, Andy. He's the one that came out and said, all right, I'm tired of it. It's wearing me out. I can't take it anymore. But Goodell sat right there on CBS News last night, about as stone-faced as you could, and said, look, hey, this is why we asked for it. We tried to do this. We tried to do that. And we didn't get it. Now we've seen it. And that's just why we came to the conclusion we came to. If he lied about this, then he's got to go.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. He'll go.
Matt in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing good, Matt. How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, why was he not prosecuted and at least, put in prison for a year or 6 months, something? I mean, why wasn't Ray Rice even ever prosecuted?
They came out with a statement, the prosecutors, those in charge, that said that he was not treated any differently than any first-time offender. They said that they would, that's a first-time offense. It's not something that they would normally prosecute. I guess even seeing, maybe they say they didn't see the tape. I don't know. But
did she press charges against him?
Again, I'm not sure it matters if she did or not. If it's but
I think
as far as it
does.
comes to assault. But,
well, I mean, I don't know what he was in a public place.
They said it was right. They said what they did, the action that they took was right. Now, that's certainly up for debate.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Goodell and the rest of the people in charge of handing down the punishment, probably got together in the room and said, hey, man, if she's crazy enough to stay with him, and that's what she likes, then who are we to say we should separate love? I mean,
I think there's something to that.
I just think you're right on it, because it's a personal issue. It's between two people. She decided to marry him after this. Okay? So if it's her choice and everybody else can come together and move on, then who is the NFL to issue this banishment? I know he plays for their organization, and he's got to abide by the rules, but it's not like he went in and did something to something in the organization, destroyed something, tampered with something, stole something there that would warrant him being kicked out of that league. I mean, this is a personal issue between he and his wife, and at the time was fiance, now wife.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just mainly the media and all this, sensitivity nobody's taking the everybody's passing their judgment, and it's wrong, and I say it's wrong, and I think he should have been at least suspended for half the year. I mean, I agree with all that. He should be punished, but at the same time, people should be asking the question, you know, evidently this woman either doesn't mind it or wants to stay with him for the money or whatever, but, you know, it's kind of like, you know, if you're crazy enough to tight wire across Niagara Falls, you're going to deal with the consequences if you fall off that tight wire. Well, if you're crazy enough to stay in a relationship like that, then deal with the consequences. That's the way I look at it, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Matt, appreciate your call. 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. In the same light of that, Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys. We haven't had a chance to talk about that. You know, some pictures surfaced of he and some women in some compromising situations.
Exotic dancers.
There you go. A few months ago, and then now this is he's accused of sexual assault. You know, and it's a former exotic dancer has filed a lawsuit against Jerry Jones, accusing him, and she's moved out of Texas now. You know, we just saw Donald Sterling basically get forced to sell his franchise. And I heard this earlier. Is that really a penalty? Well, you know, it was his. He built it up to what it was. And, yeah, in some form or fashion it is, because he doesn't have control or ownership of that franchise. Yes, he did get the money out of it, but he no longer has anything to do with it. Jerry Jones, you want to talk about some major news. The Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, and maybe Jerry Jones is what's wrong with the Dallas Cowboys. If you watch the way they played Saturday, they are horrendous, and it's not getting any better. And
well, I don't big problems, Tony.
I can completely agree. I don't know who made him into some all-star quarterback.
Jerry's the one that's paying him a big contract.
And then gave him that extension, which made everybody scratch their head till it bled. But I think, again, going back, what you just said, you kind of answered my question. I think Jerry Jones is the problem. You can't tell him anything. He's going to make the decisions. He puts his coach, and Jason Garrett's in a situation he can't succeed. Who wants that job right now?
I'll be honest with you, I don't see a lot coming from this, because I think in the end, if it comes down to it, Jerry will just settle out of court. He'll pay his settlement.
She's seeking $1 million.
Because he's got plenty. That's chump change. And he got that on him, $1 million. And, you know, I think that'll probably be the end of it. Now, it just goes to show, though, I mean, this is a 71-year-old man, but you get involved in situations like this, you know, with these type people, you end up paying, like what the caller said before, you pay the consequences. And if you're going tightrope Niagara Falls, then you got to understand there could be consequences, and they ain't going to be good.
And I know somebody that went out and was an intern, a girl that was an intern for the Dallas Cowboys, and she went around and was part of their, you know, when they go out to training camp, they go to different places, and then, you know, during preseason games. And some of the stuff she told me that went on with Jerry Jones and his sons and the way they handled their lives is, you know, I can't share it on here. And you want to talk about boosting ratings, it would, but it's just amazing, but that's the kind of person he is. I'm sorry, that's the kind of playboy lifestyle they lead. It's just Floyd Mayweather. It's, you know, let's fly in our jet and go everywhere we want to in the world and throw money up in the air, and no regard for anything, no responsibility. Just, you know, those are the guys. Once again, I go back to what I said in the first hour: the ones that people love to pull against. You love to see Jerry Jones just came out and said, you wouldn't want to know the check I'd write if I knew it would guarantee the Dallas Cowboys win a Super Bowl. He said that this past Sunday. That tells you about it. He's not.
When money ceases to mean anything.
Well, he's not worried about trying to work and do it the right way. He just wants to write a blank check out. Hey, go get me a Super Bowl. Is that what it's worth to you?
Well, it's like Tiger Woods. I mean, when money becomes something that is meaningless, you can do anything you want. You can go anywhere you want. You can buy anything you want. It can be seductive, and your lifestyle turns into immorality, and you find yourself in the situation that he's in.
Well, and he builds this huge stadium in Dallas, and, you know, it's Jerry's world and all this kind of stuff. And, That's why everybody laughs when it's 28-3 at half. Okay, and San Francisco, and they're not competitive, and they want to see Dallas fall on their face, and they laugh when they're 8-8 and they just missed the playoffs again, because nobody wants to see them win outside of a true Dallas Cowboy fan. And then even them
apparently they're dwindling because
getting
it was half San Francisco fans in the Jerry Dome.
You're exactly
that was
right.
Unbelievable. There's still time to get that last phone call in. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free. Locally at 334-887-3401. Brett and I'll be back with one final segment on today's Sports Call right after this.
Purchasing.
Class, an Auburn way of life.
Before the big game on Saturday, tune in to SportsClick's Saturday Sports Countdown on FM Talk 95.9. From 10 a.m. to noon, Luke Robinson, Brett Pritchard, and Randy Lee break down the day's biggest games and the latest news from around the sports world. You can call in at 800-782-0108 or watch live at sportsblitzlive.com. That's Sports Countdown this Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon.
This segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Resource Natural Spring Water. Resource is 100% natural spring water with naturally occurring electrolytes that support a lifestyle of well-being. When you need to refresh, revitalize, and replenish, it's always Resource Natural Spring Water.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final segment of the Wednesday Sports Call. Andy and Brett here with you. Give us a call at 1-888-9-TIGER-9, toll-free locally at 334-887-3401. Let's go right to the phone line.
All we had to do is bring up Gene Chiswick and just light the phone lines up. Let's go back. Slack in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Slack? How are you?
I'm great. Got a question that I guess a lot of Auburn people probably would like to know. If Auburn went ahead and made a decision to do some type of expansion at the stadium, which I'm pretty sure it needs to be done here pretty soon, like everyone else in the conference, how deep are Auburn's pockets?
They're pretty deep, and I mean they're
not Texas A&M deep.
I'm not sure anybody's Texas A&M deep.
Yeah, we don't have any oil. We don't have any oil wells around our.
Right.
It would take an effort, I think, to get some powerful boosters together to at least get a down payment type thing.
Sure.
Started, but
I bet Auburn can get it done.
Yeah, I believe they could.
Okay. The reason I asked, I remember when Texas A&M did their expansion, I think they had about 25 boosters just put it to bill. I wonder if we got 25 guys can put a bill like that.
Well, I know we got one guy that's a pretty big wig up there in Apple Computers there.
Yeah.
He cut a pretty big check to the business department. I'm sure maybe we could convince him to donate $1 million or $2 million.
I'm sure.
Okay. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Auburn's got some guys in some big places, and there are a lot of and they're very supportive of the athletic program. So when the time comes, they feel like they got to put a capital campaign together to renovate Jordan-Hare Stadium when that time comes. I talked to a building science guy this weekend, and he said, look, there is nothing wrong with the foundation and structure of Jordan-Hare. So I know some people are going, well, the base structure is old and all that. Look, most stadiums in this country are old. But when you renovate and you add on, you've got plenty. You just go in and check the structure, make sure it's fine, and it is. Auburn can definitely withstand some renovation.
Well, we talked about it, not by any design of mine, but it ended up being the show of knuckleheads and kind of buffoonery as we looked around the world of sports today. And I'm going to add one final guy to that list.
We've got a good list going.
Former NFL quarterback Ryan Leaf was sentenced to 5 years in prison in Texas for violating the terms of his probation. Now, he's not going to have to serve any time because he was already in prison in Montana. So he's got time served, but apparently he was arrested for felony burglary after criminal possession of a dangerous drug. He broke into someone's home to steal prescription drugs. This is a guy, and this goes to show you about
you want to talk about hitting rock bottom.
About recruiting, about drafting. There was a legitimate debate between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. Which guy was the better quarterback? I feel sorry for Ryan Leaf. I hope he was coaching at a Division II school there, Texas West A&M, I think, West Texas A&M. But you talk about a guy who's fallen off the face of the earth. It's sad.
You can go down a list of athletes that were just high profile guys that just incognito now. Nobody knows where they are, and when they pop up, it's something like this. It's some story like this. It's sad to an extent, but he was a little bit wacko to begin with. If you remember,
he was a lot wacko.
Yeah, the rage. You can go back real quick before we go off the air about stadiums. To think that the Georgia Dome's 20 years old. It's 20 years old, Andy, and they're about to tear it down. I mean, it's coming down, the Georgia Dome. And the reason for this is because Jerry Jones, it's funny how all these stories are tying in today. It's kind of scary. Built that mausoleum out in Texas, and to be able to go out and bid on this national championship game, these cities going to have the facility to hold it. And Atlanta wants to be able to have that, so they're going to forcing. we're sitting here talking about Jordan-Hare Stadium. The base structure was built in '39. Atlanta's got the Georgia Dome over there, and it's 20 years old, barely 20 years old, and they're going to implode it. I mean, it's just
Turner Field.
They
opened 1997, I believe. They're
done.
Moving out.
Done with it.
A lot of that has to do with geography about where the stadium is. And they want to move out to the suburbs of Atlanta and try to get out of the inner
smaller
city,
stadium, yep.
Smaller stadium, and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's interesting.
They keep losing. They'll need a lot smaller stadium.
That's for sure. You want to talk about, and that's an interesting thing. Baseball, we're in the middle of some hot pennant races. Nobody is saying a word about it. Baseball has just kind of fallen off the earth.
Well, it just shows you where it kind of lies in the scheme of things nationally. It's unfortunate, especially in the South.
Well, we'll be back with you tomorrow. Sports Call 4 to 6. Be sure to join us then. We appreciate all of you listening out there. We really appreciate all of you calling in. For Brett Pritchard, I am Andy Graham saying so long for now. We'll talk again soon.
Healthy